Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
We've got a Canuck move to tell you about moments away. In the meantime, just ahead of Kevin Woodley from NHL.com and In Goal Magazine, all of our guests today, including Kevin, standing by, are sponsored by Basant Motors. It's March Mayhem this month at Basant. Score yourself a great deal on a new-to-you vehicle. Learn more at basantmotors.com. It's not a trade, but the Canucks have made a move an hour or so away from trade deadline.
Yeah, Brad Richardson has been claimed off of waivers by the Vancouver Canucks, so that you can read two things into this. That maybe Tyler Mott's days are done in Vancouver. You could read it. We're just, it's early. And the other one, Donnie, is that if you are going to trade Mott, it makes you wonder that a draft pick would be coming back the other way and not a player, because you're going to take on Brad Richardson, a former Canuck. Did Richardson not score 4 goals against the Canucks in one game? You remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I think that game was in Arizona. But there you go. This might be an indicator, folks, that Tyler Mott's done in Vancouver.
Now, the other thing that Patrick Johnson is talking about right now, PJ just tweeted, claiming Richardson lets Canucks send Patan and Rempel to AHL for playoff purposes.
Great.
This could be a little bit of shakedown that way as well.
27 games in Calgary for Brad. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. He is 37 years old.
37.
Second go-round with the Canucks, joining the likes of Harold Sneps, Jeff Sanderson, and other Trevor Linden, players that have had 2 go-rounds with the Vancouver Canucks.
Yep.
Well, I'll find out his uniform number for you, Rich, as soon as I can. I'll get right on that.
A hard-working guy, Donnie, and I know when he left Vancouver, very well respected in the dressing room, and just a really good bottom 6 guy.
Stanley Cup champion with the LA Kings. Joined now to talk Canuck goaltending and other matters, if we can fit them in, from NHL.com and In Goal Magazine. It's Kevin Woodley. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are we doing, boys? Yeah, you got a move to talk about, Ricky. There you go.
Looking good, by the way. Damn.
Well, did you get coming on with 2 professionals like yourselves? I knew I had to up my game here. Neither one of you would ever wear jeans to a wedding or anything like that. I had to make sure that I was prepared and ready to go. The question, of course, which I'm not going to answer, is whether I have any pants on underneath here. But look good from the waist up, boys.
Yeah, don't stand up, Kevin. We're good. Hey, listen, Kevin, what are you seeing from Thatcher Demko right now? All sorts of talk that he may be overworked.
There's obviously signs at times, a little bit of fatigue, and yet I think what I'm seeing is a goaltender who's just, for the most part, under siege, right? Like, even the other night, you could question against the Flames, maybe the first goal goes through him. He doesn't sort of get into his low stance early. He's kind of still in an elevated position as that shot is released and he gets caught in transition. Is that a mistake he makes earlier in the season? Maybe not. But also, like in that game, what did he face? 2-3 2-on-0s? Like just, especially early in games, just under siege. And I think as much as the wear and tear of a season and the number of games he's played, that was 18 straight appearances, 8 straight starts, 9 and 19 last night. I think it's just even within the games, like there's so much work. They lean so heavily on their goaltender that within games, that workload can pile up. So it's interesting. I did run the numbers because this narrative has kind of popped up over the past couple of weeks, and the adjusted statistics have fallen off a little bit, but he's still performing at a top 10 level in the National Hockey League. So Thatcher Demko at his B or A minus game is still a goaltender that a lot of teams around the league would love to have in their net.
Okay, Kevin, tell me this. Answer me this. You're in a playoff push. Every game is so important. You've got a horse like Thatcher Demko. How do you deal with the temptation to play him every single game?
Well, I think you saw over the last 3 and 4, they just did, right? Like they just played him every single game. And I think
would you do that?
And, you know what? Given the options and given where they're at, like the must-win scenario, I think I would. Like the problem here is they clearly have lost a little faith in Jaroslav Halak as an option, and some of that's their own doing. This isn't. And Bruce Boudreau said it the other day. This isn't a no faith in Halak thing so much as we need the level that Thatcher Demko gives us to have a chance. And this is kind of the argument I've been making all season. Like, if you need Vezina trophy level goaltending every night to have a chance, that's probably not the sign of a great team. And so because they needed it, because Demko was so good in December, they just kept going to him. And as they did that, they started to lose Jaroslav Halak, who has been one of the best 1Bs in the league for the last number of years. But guys, like 1B, not pure backup. Jaroslav Halak is a guy who has had a lot of success. Like, he's got a .916 career save percentage. We're about to put Roberto Luongo in the Hall of Fame with a .919. Like, this guy has played at a high level for a long time, but he's never played fewer games. Like, the last time he played this few games was 2013. It was also the last time he had a save percentage sub 900. So as those gaps in starts piled up, you started to lose the best of Jaroslav Halak. And now we get to this point. He has a couple of starts, and the decision just gets that much tougher because A, you need Vezina caliber goaltending, and that's what Demko gives you. But B, Halak's kind of, he's sort of lost his game over the past couple of months, or he's not at the level he was giving you early in the season, in part because you haven't used him enough. It's a real catch-22.
Okay, two things. Is Halak going to waive today if he's asked? That's one. And two, what did you think of the Halak incident with Boudreau on the bench after the second period against the Flames Saturday?
Well, I think that Jaroslav would have. I think he would have waived for a while now, to be honest with you, Rick. And I know that's not necessarily the conversation that's come from his representation. And listen, like, that's his last. I understand that, like, that's sort of his last negotiating tool, right? Is that no move clause, and so you hold on to that as long as you can. But I believe that Jaroslav Halak has wanted an opportunity to play for a while, and he's not going to get that here. And so I think for quite some time, he would have been willing to waive that no move. Now, the fact he has a no move, maybe that lets him be a little pickier with his destination. I think the reality is the teams that need depth in goal are, for the most part, that look at him as an option, you know, especially if you have a little less faith in your number one or if you got some injury concerns. Like, Jaro has, it may not be, he's a guy that it's about not, you get a start every 2 weeks. Jaro's a guy that can give you 2 great weeks. Like, he's not at his best if it's every 2 weeks playing, but if you need him for 2 straight, like, he's able to get to that high level. The problem is the teams that have that need are also teams that are up against the cap and have salary cap problems and aren't going to want to take on that whole ticket. And so that becomes a tougher negotiation. I think one that requires a deadline to have a chance to maybe happen. I'm still not optimistic it'll happen. Jaroslav is. I think, you know, with an hour left to go, he's still holding out hope that there's a trade to come here. And again, to me, Rick, that's a sign for sure that this is a guy who's more than willing to move on, probably would welcome a change of scenery, especially if it's an option to play more. And I think that's what you saw going back to Saturday night, was maybe a little bit of that frustration about the fact that he's still here and in this situation, spilling over probably more publicly than anyone would have liked.
What can the Canucks do, off goaltending for a second, Kevin? What can the Canucks do about slow starts?
No, I mean, there's Bruce has joked about psychologists and all that. I mean, the easy answer is build a better team. You know, like, there's an element here of, listen, the Calgary Flames one, I'm willing to grant you an except, like, talking to the Flames after the game there, like Matthew Tkachuk and some of the players, like, they were so fired up for that game. Not only did they come off a 1-0 loss to the Buffalo Sabres the night before, but they had that 7-1 shellacking fresh in their minds. They were all thinking about it. They were like, you know, like they were like shot out of a cannon in that game. And so the Canucks didn't have an answer. But some of the other ones, teams coming in here tired, Tampa Bay, when you knew they'd only have a good 10 minutes, you didn't have an answer. I just think that against some of the better teams, when they come out with a really good push, this team isn't good enough to match that. Maybe some of it's psychological. Maybe some of it speaks to, you know, some of the personalities in terms of dipping their toes into the water too often this season before they really get revved up late. But I think at the end of the day, some of it just comes down to when other teams give you their best early in a game, the Canucks aren't good enough to match that.
Okay, and one more, Kevin, before we let you go. I may have been dreaming, but I thought I heard you say this as Alex Ovechkin gets himself another 40-goal season. Did I hear you say that Alex Ovechkin has the ability to bend shots, to throw a curveball?
Ovi's got a curveball for sure. I don't know about the ability to throw it. Like, I don't know if he knows when it's coming every time. But we've all seen that little toe hook at the end of his stick. And it's been years since I wrote this story, but I think it was when he was around chasing 600. I started talking to goaltenders about it based on the goalie coach and Braden Holtby in Washington telling me that it actually curves. And so when he catches that 1T with an element of that on a part of it on the toe there. If you're a goaltender moving to your right, Ovi's in his spot, and it's like the breaking ball on the right-handed hitter. So on the glove side, it looks like it's going wide, and it's got a little curve. And you'll see a lot of times, even Demko here, the one that went off the post, hit him, and then lay on the goal line before Kuznetsov knocked it in. You're moving to your right, and you feel like it's coming right at your blocker, and it's sort of breaking down and away. So I don't know that it's purposeful, but I've talked to a lot of goaltenders about this, and Ovi, yes, he's hammering it. He rarely misses the net, and when he gets it with a piece of that toe hook, it actually curves. Brian Miller was another guy that confirmed that, a guy that saw him a lot. So as hard as that shot is, as accurate as it is, it's also moving on you. Not an easy task for a goaltender, and probably an answer to the question of why everyone knows it's coming and nobody can stop it.
The legend grows. And I'll tell you this, Ovi, what a hockey player, little controversy lately. He can't rock a suit like you. Thanks so much, Kevin. We appreciate this.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on.